Mike Palumbo here again, and I'm in the kitchen making a nice pan-seared steak. Prepping everything, prepping the garlic right now. And I figured while I was doing this, a friend of mine that was talking to me the other day, he asked me, like, what was like the worst speeding ticket case you ever handled, you know? And I thought about it and figured I'd tell this story while I'm cooking here. I had a guy 135 miles an hour. 135 miles an hour. That was a pretty bad one. But so I figured I'd tell the story as I'm making some dinner. But first, a message from our sponsor.
This is Vic DiBattista driving around. I just passed the spot where I got a ticket last month. Thank God for my guy, Michael Palumbo. He got me out of the ticket. I tried reasoning with the cop. First of all, he looked like he was Justin Bieber. I don't know. I'm talking, you know, Tony Gaga. You know your sister's ass. Do you know who I am? He didn't want to hear it. Just stared at me like I'm an Amish guy at Best Buy. Anyway, I'm like, Mike, can you help me out? He said, Vic, no problem. That's what I do. Send me all the papers. Send me the ticket. He gets the points reduced or dropped. You don't have to take a day off from work. There's no stress. He does it all for you. Then your insurance doesn't go up. The man is amazing. Michael Palumbo. You got to call. What do you got to... Well, looks like I got to call Michael Palumbo.
Okay, I'm back. And these are the basic ingredients that I use to make my seared steak. Okay, what we got is one onion chopped up basically in quarters. Got the red hot pepper flakes. We got the olive oil. We got the a couple cloves of garlic that I chopped up. And of course the piece de resistance, the steak. I mean, look at this. Just look at this steak. Beautiful, beautiful piece of meat. And what I already done was defrosted. I took it out this morning, and I've already started the cooking process by basically putting salt on it. Salt starts the cooking process when you're going to sear a nice nice steak. But I also seasoned it with pepper and some garlic sauce, garlic salt. So these are the basic, the ingredients, and let's get cooking. The first step here is I put a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in the pan, and we brought up the temperature, and I know that because I have a temperature gauge. Throw it in here, and it's about 160 degrees. So once it gets up to about 160 degrees, or you can just kind of eyeball it, it starts making like little tiny bubbles. The first thing you do is you put your garlic in. You saute your garlic. And this really is to basically infuse the garlic flavor in the onion, in the oil. And of course, if you want it angry, like I'm in an angry mood tonight, people, angry. I want a little spice, a little hot. You put your red hot pepper flakes or anything else you're going to spice it up with right into the medium, right into the cooking medium. In this case, the olive oil. It really opens up these flakes, and you get a really good, you know, it infuses onto the steak. So I'll move this around a little bit. You can't see it's in there, but it's the garlic's getting a little bit brown. It's gonna burn. I mean, it's really not there to eat. It's there to just to flavor the oil. And step one is you put the steak in. Listen to that sizzle, folks. You're doing something right when you hear that. And what you want to do is you want to sear it on all sides. So let's sear here for a couple minutes, for a minute or so. And you want to sear it on the side where it's got the fat. You want to render that fat. It gets into the oil, and it just picks up the flavor of that sweet flavor of the fat. So it's been going for a few minutes now, and it's really starting to sizzle. And you know, the meat thermometer is key because you would think that this thing is almost ready. Take a look at it. It's brown. It's nice and brown on both sides. And it looks great. It's sizzling away. So you would think that it's almost ready, but it's not. The internal temperature is still pretty cool. So these meat thermometers, they take the guesswork out of things. So we're just gonna let it go. I got it on medium. I don't want it to burn on the outside. I want it to start, slowly cook to the inside. And we're just gonna follow the directions when the meat thermometer. When it hits about 130, then I'm gonna go on to the next step. Back, the internal temperature of the steak is in about 120s. Now it's time for the next step. You take your butter, I use Smart Balance, and you throw it in. Start sauteing it with a little bit of butter. At this point, we throw our onions in too. Throw your onions. You don't want to throw your onions in too early because I just want to cook them a little bit. I don't want them to burn like with the garlic. I didn't care. I wasn't looking to eat the garlic. But the onions are a side dish here. You throw them right in. Get right in there in that butter. Even spoon it a little bit, spoon it on the top of the steak. Again, I like it medium, about 145 degrees. The internal temp right now is 133 degrees. You can't really quite see, I don't think, but the onions are starting to cook very nicely. They're not cooking too fast. Not going to burn. Just want them sauteed. Also, if you have fresh herbs, I don't have any, but if you have fresh herbs, rosemary, thyme, parsley, this is the stage you put it in. Again, it infuses with the butter and it infuses with the oil and the rendering from the steak. It gives a really good flavor. But I think we need more butter. So here we go. A little more butter here. Throw it right in there. Yep. Butter the steak. Is there anything better, my friends? Is there anything better than buttered steak? Oh my God, I got so into this, I forgot to tell my story about the worst speeding ticket ever. So what happened was, the guy calls me up, 135, up somewhere in upstate New York. Listen, man, you're doing 135 miles an hour, you're facing jail time. It's legit, Luckily, he had a clean driving record. So, I can't remember the name of the county, but it was in one of those counties in the middle of New York that starts with an O. And I sent him a retainer, and I was praying he didn't hire me, but he did. So now I'm terrified of this case. I'm 135 miles an hour, So, had him do a defensive driving class, show a little humility, and the first thing I did was, before I did anything, I called the prosecutor's office. And I found out the prosecutor was handling the case. I get this guy on the phone, and I tell him my name. I said, listen, I got this guy, client, whatever court. He was doing 135. He goes, wait a minute. What? 135? I go, yeah, he's doing 135. He goes, well, wait a minute. And he puts the phone away from him. He goes, hey, guys, the guy doing 135, I got his lawyer on the phone. They were waiting for this call. So I was like, what can we do here, So the guy's like, no problem. We'll work out a deal. We'll make something happen for your client. So we worked out a good deal for him, but it ended up going a lot smoother than I thought. Luckily, the prosecutor had a sense of humor. All right, getting back to this steak here. All right. So, no wonder why the internal temperature is down. I took this thing out by accident. All right, what we got going on here? There's some weird stuff going on. So it's 115 before we're seeing 104. Here we go. Yep. So the internal temp is up to about 145. So what we do now is we take it out. We plate it. Look at that. That's beautiful. Look at that. Oh my God, you can't get a finer steak in a steakhouse, all right? And we played it and we let it rest. It's called letting it rest because even though it's off the heat, it's so thick that it's still cooking. Let me stir up the onions. These onions look good to me. It's still cooking, and you gotta let it rest for at least 5 minutes. If you cut the steak open now, right after you take it off the heat, you have the internal juices are still moving around, and they'll just come right out and it'll dry out the steak. So you always want to let it rest for a steak 5-10 minutes before you cut into it. I got my onions. Now another way of making this steak you could do. A lot of people, what they do is they'll sear it in a cast iron skillet like this. They'll sear it on all sides, and then they'll put it in the oven at 400 degrees, and I'll finish it like that. They'll bake it like that, and that's a legitimate way of doing it too. It comes out very similar. The reason I didn't do it this time was because I wanted the onions. So you really can't saute the onions if you finish it by baking it. But that's the way of doing it. This is the way of doing it. It took in total it was a thick piece of steak, so it probably took me a good 15 minutes. But it's a really quick meal. I mean, you defrost something. You leave the house in the morning, you don't want to eat junk. You got an onion, you defrost a steak. You come home, it'll take you 15 minutes, a half hour to whip up. Prior to starting this, I baked the potato, because it takes about an hour to bake a potato. So I got my baked potato, I got my steak, and I got my onions. And I'll probably have a little glass of wine with this, maybe. I don't know. But let's cut into it. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at the interior. So this is the punchline, right? Oh, can we see this here? Yeah. Let's just cut it in half. Oh man, look at this. Just look at that. Look at that. For me, that's perfect. It's actually a little bit rarer than I like it, but it's fine. I like my medium. I would like to cook a little more, but that's fine. This is fine. It's not quite medium rare. It's a little more than medium rare. It's more on the medium side. Let's take a quick bite of this. See how it tastes. It comes out really good. You taste the butter. You can taste the heat from the pepper flakes, not too hot. Gives it a little kick. You got that garlic. You could taste the garlic infusion in the olive oil. What I'll probably do, I'm going to eat half of this. I'm going to put the rest in the fridge. And tomorrow I'm going to make roast beef sandwiches. I'll slice this up and I'll make a sandwich for lunch. That's how I roll with my steaks. So anyhow, glad to have brought this quick little meal lesson to you, and we'll be making more great content. Please make sure share it, like, and subscribe.